First Coast's most accurate forecast from the First Coast News Weather Team, certified by Weather Rate, sponsored by AC Designs.
Good afternoon. I'm here with meteorologist Ross Muma, or should I say the Eagles want to fly, Ross Muma. Yeah. We're here at 4 for you.
We are.
As forecasters for a while. Help me, Ross. Keep me going.
As many fours as you can work in. That was
Yes.
pretty impressive. I think I counted at least 3 or 4 there, maybe 5.
Yeah. A super weekend ahead.
We do have a super weekend ahead. Obviously a big game on Sunday, but beautiful weather. Which I think is probably more important for most people across the First Coast
really,
here.
how many times have we have interesting shifts to where, for folks who don't know, Ross and I at least have time in the morning before I almost said have to come to work, but we want to come to work before we come to work. Whereas, of course, a lot of folks, Monday through Friday, work or school, beautiful days, and then here comes the weekend and a rainy front or something.
Yeah.
But not this weekend. So for everybody out there who's been working for the weekend and you like sunny, warm afternoons, man, sure looks like we're going to have that.
Yeah, Tim, you and I luckily get to deal with all the clouds and the morning fog and things like that while we're at home, whereas the afternoon, we're inside. Wow. It's gorgeous, lots of sun, warm temperatures. If you saw there on that graphic, every single day so far this month, we have seen not only above average temperatures, but every day has been slightly warmer than the last.
What a rebound. In fact, you know what? I shouldn't get there yet, so this is just sort of a tease. But I do wonder if during the Super Bowl, will we have a team that's like January and a team that's like February?
One that's cold and one that's hot.
That's one way to look at it. Or if you like warm weather, that comes from behind strongly. Anyhow, but we should probably get to the weather first.
Yeah, so this is just kind of a look outside here today. Not nearly as warm, Tim, as we've seen. So the streak of days gradually getting warmer kind of stopped here today. I think some of the cloud cover, those low clouds
sort
that kind
held
of
it down. Yeah,
were pesky.
Once again, look at Mayport.
Around.
They got that sun and they have popped 80. I wouldn't be surprised if I think Cecil Field probably got to 80 degrees today.
Okay, yeah. But the rest of us, though, in the low to mid 70s out there. So, yeah, it's still pretty warm.
Yeah, but put it in perspective, that's still, about 10 to 12 degrees above average?
Yeah, our average high is 67. So, still, yeah, like you said, around about 10 degrees. Some high cloud cover there off to the northwest, but overall, nothing to really dampen any of your Friday evening plans. Going to stay dry out there. Temperatures overnight dipping down into the upper to mid 50s. So still a pretty mild evening. Our average lows should be in the upper 40s this time of the year.
Yeah, so again, put this in perspective. You're out there with the one you love, and at 9 o'clock it's still pretty much where temperatures are at average highs.
Yeah.
Right? So you could be out there dressed,
It doesn't really feel like early February, does it?
It doesn't, although I will say that it does seem to almost be a rule. It's not, and that's why we have to keep forecasting. But it does seem like, especially once we get to January, that if we have a hardcore period in January, then, man, when we rebound.
You rebound hard and you warm up quite a bit.
Yeah, in February. And it probably has to do some of it, too, with not only is it the rebound, which you kind of expect, but then the days are getting longer, right? You've had, like especially as persistent as January was, 2 to 3 weeks. And many of those days being cloudy, so you're not really noticing the longer sun, and the Earth can't really take advantage of the solar radiation because it's not getting it. Then suddenly we're getting that solar radiation that, let's see, where are we? We're getting about, 45 more minutes now as compared to...
By the end of February, I think we gained like 30 minutes more than where we're at right now.
Yeah, so it adds up.
And you just kind of think the sinusoidal waves... the seesaw has to balance out, right? You get real cold, you eventually have to get some warmer than average temperatures to kind of even everything out.
Well, let's talk about it. It just came out today. I think they're still going to do some peer review on it, but it looks like the initial numbers indicate that globally this January was the warmest ever. And then think about, of course, the weather we had. So what that implies is there must be some massive areas of some pretty warm air.
Yeah.
And so obviously some of that has bubbled our way.
We just didn't see that at all in January.
Not here, that's for sure.
But so it's been warm this week. We've also seen a lot of foggy mornings. Expect a very similar story tomorrow morning as well. Coastal areas have a chance to see some, but primarily pretty much from the Gulf Coast, moving from west to east, moving inland. So the I-75 corridor, and then as far east as at least Highway 301, if not Highway 17. So kind of butting up close to the western side of the St. Johns River there for at least the southern part of our viewing area. And that's where you're going to see the best chance to see some at least patchy to dense fog, where visibilities could be less than a mile, even less than a half mile, or even a quarter mile visibility, which would be in that dense fog criteria. If you don't happen to see really all that much fog, especially after sunrise, I know this morning, Tim, after about 7 a.m., a lot of the fog in and around Jacksonville, that started to lift pretty quickly.
Yeah, it's sort of more just the way of stratus.
Yeah.
Clouds.
So you at least have a little bit of a low cloud deck.
Yeah, with it being Saturday, I like to bring up, our everyman. You love him. You don't get to see him, but our everyman, that being Andy. And Andy mentioned that it could be that, because it's the weekend, just sleep right through it. You might not even notice the fog.
I think he told me today that he slept in until like 10 or 11.
Even today?
I think so.
That's not quite the everyman.
Well, I wasn't impressed.
On a Friday, if you get to do that.
He actually did make it to the gym today, whereas yesterday, Anthony Austin and I, we're training for the Gate River Run. We both worked out, went for a run, and Andy texts us and says, well, that's nice. I'm still in bed.
That's nice.
So he's sleeping through all the fog. But that's kind of been a big story here all week long, is the fog. We've kind of seen two separate areas and two different types of fog here over the past several days. So I'm going to give you the first one here, Tim. Maybe just talk about the sea fog, kind of why it forms or how it forms there as it moves on shore.
And actually this may be the bigger deal tomorrow morning because I'm thinking about a lot of salt lifers, a lot of people who fish. They've been working all week, and they want to go out tomorrow and maybe offshore, and light winds, so sea's not a problem. But the main thing to remember, folks, is that fog is simply a cloud on the ground or the water. And how does that happen? That happens when you have, 100% humidity or condensation. And so if you can picture air has dew points in the 60s, and then it's blowing over water that's maybe 59 or 60 degrees, well, at a layer there, it's instantly reaching 100%. And so you get the clouds and that's a nice little sandcastle there.
That's one that Andy built, actually. Right, he built it right beside your surfboard.
Oh, is that my surfboard?
Preserver.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then you have a life preserver there to be safe. Pull Anthony in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Now, radiation fog is tougher to occur, but to me, it is kind of one of those counterintuitive things. It's like, you need clear skies to get fog, right? And Ross has put together a great picture here. So I'm thinking about, like right now, we have the sun. So it's obviously warmed things off, but then you have the clear skies, folks, and the radiation, that is the heat that built up from the solar radiation, is able to escape. And so those temperatures drop, and then once again, as Ross has there, temperatures drop to the dew point, and if it remains the same for a while, then that what should we call it, a saturated layer?
Yeah. Yeah, you reach 100% saturation once the temperature and the dew point reach each other, and then it will stay there until really one of two things happen. Either you get some mixing in the air, so some drier air is brought in, but primarily it's just the temperature begins to rise thanks to daytime heating, and that brings the temperature away from the dew point, and some of those droplets then begin to evaporate, and the fog eventually then begins to dissipate, which typically happens shortly after sunrise, right?
And I don't want to digress too much, but because you've done a lot of forecasting up north, and then that is, though, something that forecasters have to think about as far as length of day and direct sunshine, right? Because I think especially up north, you get that fog once it sets in, because you have such a low sun angle, it's tough for that to break through, right?
Yeah, especially like late fall, early spring, those scenarios where, the sun angle is much more acute. We're not talking about the everyman Andy when we say cute. That's acute. All right, there's our super weekend. Oh man. Low 80s, so morning lows in the mid 50s, highs in the low 80s.
I am going to have to stroke it in the ocean at least for a little bit.
I'm sure we're going to have a lot of beach goers out there before the big game on
Super game
Sunday
at Superdome.
Super Bowl 59 in Lee Southwick's old stomping grounds over in the French Quarter on Bourbon Street. down there in the Bayou. I dubbed it the Bayou Brawl. I don't know if anyone else has called it that.
The Bayou Brawl is good. The Bayou near Bourbon.
Yeah, yeah. Well, anyone going to the game, they got some nice weather, at least either walking into the stadium or walking home and celebrating afterwards.
It's certainly the French Quarter. What a great place to walk around. I mean, even during the day, in my opinion. So yeah, some pretty nice temperatures there. Obviously in the Superdome, no problem. For anybody driving, maybe from here.
I wish I was.
No real. I still won't be surprised to hear that you end up making the drive, folks. For those of you who don't know, Ross is from Pennsylvania, and he is both a Penn State and Eagle fan, and the way I look at it is an Eagle fanatic.
Do you consider this the fanatic? See, I told Tim I came prepared. Now he's been across the First Coast here for over 40 years, so he is a full-blown Jags fan at heart.
I am.
So I did give him a jersey.
You did.
He said he could not betray his beloved Jaguars.
No, I can't actually put it on, but I will show this. And as I'm showing this,
I think midnight green and black is your color.
I will say that I am rooting for the Eagles to win, and it's for two reasons. Number one, my mother is from Philadelphia. And so that's the main reason. But then I was also actually born at Fitzgerald Mercy Hospital in Philadelphia. So I do have some connections.
Well, so what is your now you're cheering for the Eagles, but what is your actual Super Bowl forecast?
Are we going to put the numbers up?
Yeah, we do have the numbers up. Andy, you can either pop it up now or after. There's my guy, Jalen Hurts.
Actually, I think it's easy to throw out numbers, but as a forecaster, it helps to understand the why, right? And so what I envision are toward the end of the game that the Eagles score a touchdown, and everyone's thinking, okay, they're going to go for an extra point and tie it, but then KC gets called for offsides, and so that moves them closer to the end zone.
Instead of kicking the extra point.
And instead of kicking the point, they do the tush push. Is that what we're calling it?
Yeah.
The tush push.
Or the brotherly shove.
The brotherly shove. And the Eagles take it by a point. Now you're even a little more confident.
We've got a board out here in the newsroom. Yeah. Everyone put their score predictions. I did change mine a little bit.
You can't change.
No, only slightly. The outcome's still the same, Tim. I gave the Chiefs an extra 4 or 3 points because I did have them at 23 or 24. They have not, or they've only lost by more.
Why did you adjust? Did you see some new data?
Well, because the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes specifically has only lost by 8 or more points like 5 times in his entire career. So any game he does lose is almost always very, very close. Mm-hmm. Now, I do think, the Eagles have a much better defense than what they had 2 years ago when they narrowly lost to the Chiefs. Offensively, I think they're much more balanced than they were 2 years ago. In Super Bowl 57, they really didn't have much of a running game. Jalen Hurts threw the ball all over the field. It was great, but it turned into a shootout. I don't think that's going to be the case this time around.
Folks, you should see how excited he's getting.
I'm pumped.
His feet are almost tapping.
Hey, and also, I'm a Penn Stater. Saquon Barkley went to my alma mater. He was there at the same time I was. I know Andy hates it. So does
Was
Anthony.
He really? He was there at the same time you were?
Yeah, he was a year above me in class, or in
But again, and I hear you because I'm picking them too, but primarily because of my mom. That's my deep sports analytical mind that I have. But I do think though what's going to make it tighter than what you're saying is, and I have a question for you now, is the coach factor.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering this, so I'm not trying to catch you off guard, but you would know more than I. So how many Super Bowls does this make that Reed has been in? With the Eagles, how many was he with?
He only went to the Super Bowl one time. Okay. That was the one 20 years ago here in Jacksonville against the Patriots.
Okay. And so Reed was there. Okay. And
then I think he's been. This is his 5th Super Bowl.
I guess I'm wondering, has any NFL coach been in that many? Oh, I guess Belichick has.
Andy, do you know, is this his 4th or 5th with the Chiefs?
I don't.
So I guess
the Chiefs have won.
Well, they're going for a three-peat.
They are going for a three-peat, but they've won 3 already.
Right.
And they lost 1 to the Buccaneers. So this might be his 4th or 5th with the Chiefs. And
is that the most of any coach outside of Belichick? Anyhow, to me, when we talk about playmakers, I also think that's, to me, if I was you, I'd be nervous about the fact that Reed's on the other side.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yes, offensively, I think with Andy Reid and
You know
Patrick
you're
Mahomes,
a little nervous.
Man, of course. Well, I've got anxiety through the roof
Come on,
right now.
tell us about your workout today. What helped relax you today?
Oh, I got some boxing gloves.
Yeah.
I had to hit the bag a few times. Just
Folks, we are glad when
someone.
Ross does that with the bags and doesn't come in here and takes it out on us.
Yeah,
That is for sure.
I've got a lot of energy built up for this weekend. My girlfriend told me, she's like, we got to make sure we enjoy ourselves on Saturday because I know on Sunday you're going to be a nervous wreck. You're not going to be fit to talk to. You're just going to be
knows you.
You're going to be bristling,
She
ready
knows
to
you.
go.
And
Ready
she
to go
still
all
loves
day.
you. That's amazing.
I know.
I mean, yeah, she knows you. Hey, so speaking of playmakers,
Yeah.
we're gonna focus on what we know a lot of people are focusing on, and that is, it's great to have beautiful weather, but to me, there's always the question is on the horizon. Well, what's the next weather maker, right?
Yeah, and the reason we're not really seeing much with regards to at least precipitation is the way the jet stream is kind of setting up, or at least where the subtropical and polar jets are kind of converging there, it's to our north. So it's not really steering any weather systems towards us. So you see early next week, there went one up towards like Nova Scotia and the Halifax area. Here comes another one across Kentucky, Tennessee, and then here comes another one by Thursday and Friday. That one is going to be a little bit more potent. You see a slight dip in the jet stream there, kind of across Missouri and Arkansas and down into northern Louisiana. That's showing a little bit of a change, not nearly as much of a zonal pattern.
I kind of think of the I call it, folks, what Ross has painted there, ripples, and I kind of think of it as each ripple is punching that subtropical ridge, and finally breaks it down just enough by the third one to where it comes through.
So we're going to get the tail end of this one here come Thursday. I think I do have one more graphic. Yeah, so here goes the system on Thursday. Cold front moves on in. So good news, this at least will likely arrive before Valentine's Day.
Yes.
So
although
we're not going to get into that
we're not
a lot.
completely confident yet, but it does look like more Thursday than Friday, right?
Yes.
And do we talk at all this early about the race where they're going left for 500 miles?
I think we could. Yeah, there is
yet another front.
Yeah, another front, another wave of energy that could make its way in sometime around next Sunday. So if you're a NASCAR fan or just, a race fan in general, you're planning on watching the Daytona 500 next weekend, it does look like there is the potential for that front to arrive. I think there's kind of three different scenarios. One, the front doesn't reach there at all before the race. So it's just going to be warm, partly cloudy, a little humid. The front could hit in the morning, and you see morning rain, but it might clear out by the afternoon, or it's just slow enough that it hits right around lunchtime or the afternoon, and you get plenty of rain. I know they do have new wet tires in NASCAR. They used them in New Hampshire last year.
Now, does that mean?
Well, New Hampshire's not a super speedway,
right?
So I'm not 100% sure if they would be able to run those wets on a super speedway like Daytona. But it does look like our stretch of just warm and kind of quiet, calm weather is going to be coming to an end by the back half of next week. We're going to start to see a few more of these waves kind of make their way through.
So we're sort of using the terminology. It's going to become unsettled and then gradually headed toward maybe even wet. Now, with that said, I know there's some gardeners out there and they're wondering about a freeze. Certainly, for most folks, it's too early to be gardening, but I can see why you're wondering about it out around the beaches. And I think this front will remind us that even if we don't get a freeze, that, it's still just winter.
And do we want to mention at all about the storm chance on Thursday with that front?
I think we should at least talk about the fact that at least maybe north and west of us might be some strong stuff, right?
Yes, and then kind of weakening as it moves further to the east and southeast. I would say that maybe the only chance for, I wouldn't say severe because I don't expect any severe weather, but maybe some gusty winds with a few of those isolated storms. The upper level winds look conducive enough.
Because we might have 5,000-foot winds at like near 50. In fact, I'm thinking, I think if we get enough sun and instead of 80, it's more like 84, then might start getting some pretty strong gusts.
Yeah. And then a nice little cool down there for next Friday for your Valentine's Day.
For your sweetheart.
We're going to need to put a nice little Valentine's Day icon on that
We
Friday.
should. We might also, of course, we have Buddy Check 12 on the serious side of things, but I think that's also when the full moon is. And that might be sort of a romantic combination of, the big moon rising on Valentine's evening.
Sit out there and just
Have
look
to-
up at the sky,
Have
at the
to
moon
keep
and
a
the
close
stars.
watch on that, yes. But I know, folks, it's time because Ross is ready to get back to focus on the Super Bowl
All right.
and football.
I got to warm up my arm here on this little tiny football.
Oh, here
that
we go.
Andy gave to me.
Oh, I
so-
thought you were going to start singing.
Fly,
There he goes.
Eagles, fly. Andy, do you know the words?
There you go, Ross.
Oh!
Boo. Andy. See, what people don't know is Andy is a very big Taylor Swift fan. So I think he is secretly cheering for the Chiefs. He's still our friend, but
What do you mean secretly? Didn't he actually put on the blackboard he's going for the Chiefs?
did you, Andy?
Yes.
I think he did. Oh, yeah, he's public.
Oh, see, I didn't want the people to know that.
Yeah. So he's, well, the everyman,
Andy, can we toss someone who's
part of pop
not
culture.
in red and yellow up there to end this on? Just the two of us. That works too. Hey, go Birds. Enjoy the beautiful weekend here across the First Coast. We appreciate you watching. Sunny, warm, highs in the low 80s. Rain will be on the way by really the second half of next week. But for
Whatever,
the time
enjoy
being,
the game. Hopefully you have
Yes.
lots of guacamole.
yes, and some wings, maybe some pizza.
And tune in, folks, on Monday to see just.
We should mention we are working on a name for.
Oh,
this,
that's right.
For
and
this,
we
little
want
thing.
this to be y'all's decision. That is for those of you watching.
Yeah, so feel free to comment.
Give us
in.
some names. We're going to do it at 4 o'clock every day.
Yeah,
So maybe
so-
there's a hint.
Anything with 4, or anything that weather related.
This is for you.
Yes, comment in. Let us know what you think. What we should call this, because it is kind of a rotating bunch of Tim, myself, Robert, Lee. Sometimes Robert and Lee together
Right.
without us. So yeah, let us know what you think, and hopefully Andy will be able to spin or cook something up for us. Maybe.
Andy will do
Next
it. I
week,
have
yeah.
total faith in Andy.
All right. Thank you for watching. I'm meteorologist Ross Mumal. That's Chief Meteorologist Tim Deegan. Enjoy your weekend. Take care.